You are live.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the October 26, 2022 meeting of the Henrietta Town Board. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Here.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Here.
Councilmember Page,
Here.
Councilmember Belanca,
Here.
Supervisor Schultz.
Here. We'll begin tonight with a silent prayer followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Mr. Supervisor, fellow town board members, I make a motion to approve the minutes of the preceding meeting from October 12th, 2022. Seconded.
Any comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. First, we're going to start with a resolution recognizing an Eagle Scout prior to doing the public hearings.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a resolution number 24-319/2022. Whereas Karshan Muralitharan has achieved the rank of Eagle Scout in Boy Scout Troop 401. And whereas to achieve that rank, Karshan earned merit badges in 39 disciplines, including animation, which has been a love of his and which he is pursuing as a career, and earning the bronze, gold, and silver palm awards for his efforts. And whereas during his time in Scouts, Karshan has held numerous positions within his troop, including quartermaster, assistant patrol leader, and librarian. And whereas Karshan graduated this past spring from Rush Henrietta Senior High School and is now attending the Rochester Institute of Technology and majoring in film animation with a focus on animation. And whereas for his Eagle Scout project, Karshan created an album of pictures of the headstones at the historic Bushman Cemetery in the town of Henrietta, and included with each picture the inscription on the headstone and a location number for its location in the cemetery as depicted on a survey map. The album has been donated to the Henrietta Historian's Office. Therefore be it resolved that the Henrietta Town Board joins the Henrietta Fire Company No. 1, sponsors of Troop 401, in recognizing the achievement and honor of Karshan Muralitharan in attaining the rank of Eagle Scout.
Seconded.
So probably get tired of hearing us say it, but it's just amazing what these kids accomplish. And they are kids because they must complete before they turn 18. The dedication it takes to get everything done in that time, especially as other things in life begin to impinge on their time. It's truly amazing. And, you know, we're in the midst of a number of scouts finishing up their Eagles. We're actually going to have one for each of the next 3 meetings. And that's just from the one troop alone. So, you know, the other thing that's kind of amazing is that these scouts did it during a time of COVID, when many meetings were canceled and or moved to virtual, and or trips up to places like Massawepie, where you're able to gather or get a number of merit badges all at once. They didn't have that for some of the summer. So truly remarkable set of students.
I just have to echo, I mean, we say it all the time, but these young individuals are just so impressive with the work that they've put in and the dedication that they carry forth. And the creativity that I've seen with some of these Eagle Scout projects is always impressive to me. And I think you just mentioned, Supervisor, that we've seen quite a few Eagle Scouts coming out of this particular troop. So I think that really says something too for the troop leadership.
And I want to add as well that, you know, it's just so impressive, the young people in our community, but I also think it's a great tribute to the leadership that they have and the parents that they have backing them. Because this is, I never want to take it away from the kids, because no matter how much a parent backs you, if the child doesn't want to do it, they're not going to do it. But it's just truly, truly amazing that these children that are able to do this and the things that they're able to come up with, and the dedication of the parents and the scout leaders behind them. It's just a great tribute to our community and these wonderful young people that we have.
Yeah, and as I say every time, there's nothing more important you could put on a resume, because this award is not given, it's earned. There's a lot of hard work, hundreds of hours, that it's held to a high standard across the country. I wish he was here. We could give it to him personally.
No, I just want to add, Mr. Supervisor, I mean, Kershan was in my class with Skylar. And that entire graduating class that we talked about, 2022, what they had to go through to get it done. And the fact that he's done this much, I think is just a credit to, you know, him, and I'm hoping we get a chance to recognize that publicly.
Thank you. Any comments from the public?
We have an online hand raised.
Let's take the online first.
Carol, you are allowed to speak now.
Let me see. Can you hear me?
We can.
All right. I wanted to direct my comments related to the resolution in the town that concerns the Planned Parenthood
I'm
issue.
going to cut you off. This is comments regarding the recognition of the achievements of this Eagle Scout. Do you have any comments regarding the Eagle Scout?
Oh, I just think the kid is wonderful. Congratulations. I would like to raise my hand again at another time. Is that possible?
We will have time at the end of the meeting, yes.
Thank you.
Is it about this? Come on up. Thank you.
Karen Lankesoffer, 73 Greenmore Way in Henrietta. And I just want to say that I've known Kershan, or I knew Kershan when he was like in 3rd or 4th grade. And he and his brother Darwin were as I supervised the before school care at Crane, were in our program. I have never met nicer, more well-behaved, more dedicated children in my whole life. And it's a credit to their mom, who was working as a supervisor, I believe, at Henrietta while putting herself through school. And just the family bond there that made these kids what they are. And I can only congratulate him and speak of him in the highest terms. I just wanted to add that.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Any others? Then hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Congratulations, Kershan. When we get a date for the Eagle Court of Honor, I'll let the board members know in case anybody else is able to make it for that.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now jump to the special use permits. First up, we have special use permit application number 2022-043. Joe Terragrossa, 83 Morin Circle, to have 12 chickens, whereas town code only permits 6 chickens. Joe, are you there? You are. Could you come up and present and talk to us about the need for 12 versus 6?
Well, this is my wife's ordeal, so
Okay.
she's out of town. That's the only reason I'm here. She came home with 6 chickens a few months ago, and the kids love it. They have a good time got 3 eggs. And now she wants 6 more to have 12. Not sure what else to add to it.
And have you? So you have an existing coop
Yes,
and it says a run of 10 by 20 will be required. So is this a smaller run currently and you need to enlarge it? Is that?
yeah, it would be a little bit bigger.
Mhm.
I think we got a 10 by 10 right now.
I'm just seeing if there's a. I looked at the stuff. Okay, there we go.
So the coop, the picture of the coop, is that the existing coop right at the moment? That's was included in the.
I don't think
package?
you have that. You looking at a red one?
It's a little red one.
Well,
Yeah,
that would be one that we would be getting.
that's the one you're planning to
Yeah,
get.
the one we got now is even smaller than that.
Okay, I see. And it's designed to handle 12 chickens?
Yep.
And then below that, that fence is that's the run you'd be getting.
I'm sorry, say it again?
The fence below that, that's the run.
Yes.
So it would be completely covered because one of the concerns that I have is with the close proximity to West Henrietta Road. I wouldn't want a chicken to fly the coop, so to speak.
Oh, it's completely caged in.
Yeah. Good.
And how do you manage the waste disposal?
It's all my wife's doing. They take care of everything. There really isn't any waste. The run just gets moved around a little bit as they eat up all the grass and, underneath. Then eventually they just kind of move it a few feet and then like every few weeks they just.
I think she's worrying about the manure. What do you do with the manure
It-
to
Yeah, when you
prevent the
clean
smell?
it.
It
Nope.
just
Mhm.
goes right into the ground. It's,
Well, mostly it's the coop cleaning, I think that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because, I know when they're out wandering, I'm a backyard chicken person.
Oh, okay.
So we have a few, and I think my husband can probably relate, so.
all right. And she would have a lot more answers, but she's out of town right now. So I
Mhm.
kind of got stuck coming here.
Yeah. Have you heard any concerns or anything like that from the neighbors? Not as yet? No,
Nope.
good.
And how long have you had the 6 chickens
Probably around 4 months or so.
and no complaints? Okay.
Nope, they're pretty quiet.
And so those chickens are about 4 months now?
About, yeah.
Okay. Are they, are you planning on having any meat chickens or just egg chickens?
No, not that I know.
Yeah, once the kids start naming them, I don't think. we
Right.
want
Oh,
any
they all
meat
got
chickens.
names.
Right.
Just from my input, chickens in Henrietta is a fairly new thing. We get more complaints than we do anything else, but my concern was always if the code says 6 and we allow 12, then how can we turn the next person down who wants 18? So that's the only concern I have is that there has to be some reasonableness to it. And I just wanted to enter that.
And
into
just to be
discussion.
clear, the code would allow 12 if he had an acre, but he has 0.89.
You're pretty short of he's pretty close to an acre,
Right.
almost 0.9
They must have changed it.
of the size.
We did.
I'm
Yeah. So the
Sorry, I wasn't aware. I was part of writing the original code.
original
And I
code.
didn't know they changed it when I was gone.
Yeah.
Oh,
So there was a
Yeah.
2-year period where Rick was on the board when I first took office. He then didn't run again. 2 years later, he ran again. During that gap, we rewrote the chicken code.
oh,
Sorry.
So, but it's only for rural residential, which this is rural residential.
Yes.
So,
Well, after seeing the price of chickens or price of eggs in Wegmans, I completely understand why you want to have your own eggs.
yeah, there's about 4 or 5 out there every day.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Trust me, by next summer, it'll be a lot more than that.
Your
may
neighbors
wanna
will
re-
love you. They'll be knocking.
that's what I was gonna say. You may want to
Our
reach out to your
eggs.
neighbors.
Right?
Well, my buddy who had I don't remember how many he had, but it was at least a dozen, but he basically told his neighbors, just go in and grab eggs anytime you want.
Yeah, we
Never had complaints.
we don't have, we try to generously ply our neighbors with eggs.
So. Any other questions from the board? If you could sit at the table, just let me, before you bother moving, is there anybody who wishes to speak with regards to this application? Any neighbors, anyone online? Okay, no need to move then. Anything else? Then hearing none. Someone want to put forth a resolution or approval or denial?
Mr. Supervisor, fellow town board members, I'd like to make a motion to approve special use permit application number 2022-043 at 83 Moran Circle to have no more than 12 chickens, whereas the town code only permits 6.
Second.
And again, I would just like to make sure the minutes note that part of the reason we're okay with this is they're at 0.89 acres already, so they're very close to the 1 acre limit. They've demonstrated they've had chickens for at least 4 months without complaint. They're going to a coop that is sized for both a coop and a run that is sized for the correct number of chickens. So all those are factors in our decision to approve this. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Congratulations and good chickening.
Luck with your
I'm all set.
chickens.
Husbandry,
Yep, you're all set.
you're all set.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Next up, we have special use permit application number 2022-044. Florin Decor, 20 Miracle Mile Drive to allow a building height of 36 feet, whereas town code permits only a height of 30 feet for a retail store proposed to be constructed in the location of the former Macy's building. Do we have a representative from Florin Decor?
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board. Can everyone hear me?
We can.
Excellent. My name is Howard Jenislaw. I'm an attorney at the law firm Gibbons PC, and I'm here tonight representing Florin Decor. I'd like to just take a minute to give you a brief overview of Florin Decor and of the proposal, introduce our project team, and then we'd be happy to take any questions that you might have. The proposal tonight is to demolish the existing vacant Macy's store at the Marketplace Mall and to construct in its place a freestanding Florin Decor retail store consisting of approximately 65,000 square feet. For anyone who may not be familiar with Florin Decor, they are a leading specialty retailer of hard surface flooring, selling items such as tile, wood, stone, related tools, and flooring accessories. They also provide design services. They currently operate over 180 stores in 33 major markets across the country, but as of yet, they do not have any stores in the Rochester area. And hopefully that will soon change, which is why we're here tonight. The property is in the B1 commercial district, in which retail stores are permitted use. The proposed building would be within the existing footprint of the current Macy's. The overall footprint area of the building would actually be reduced by around 17,000 square feet. We submitted a conceptual site plan to give you an idea of the site layout. We are currently scheduled at the Conservation Board on November 1st and at the Planning Board at its November meeting. So I wasn't going to get into a lot of detail about the site plan as part of tonight's presentation, but I wanted to focus in on the building height, which is why we're at the town board for a special permit.
I'm going to interrupt a second. I'm going to need you to go through some of the site plan because prior to us being able to approve or deny a special use permit, we have to complete the seeker determination. And so the town board's going to need to familiarize themselves with the plans.
Understood. So why don't I do this?
Sorry.
Let me give you a little bit more background on why we're here, and then I'll call upon our project engineer to walk you through the site plan and answer any questions you may have about the site plan itself. So the reason why we are at the town board is because of the need for a special permit relative to building height. The town code in section 18 specifies that any building above 30 feet requires a special permit. Our proposed building is 36 feet at the entrance feature, top of parapet, and the rest of the building is approximately 25 feet. By comparison, the existing Macy's, which was approved as a Kaufman's earlier, is at a height of 48 feet at the entrance feature, and the remainder of that building is 35 feet roughly. We did submit a plan, a building elevation, showing what that building looks like and providing the dimensions. So what we're proposing is substantially lower in height than what's there currently, but yet it still exceeds the 30 feet, and so therefore it does require the special permit. The town code in section 54 does outline a number of criteria that need to be satisfied in order to grant the special permit. So as not to take up a lot of time at tonight's hearing, I did submit a written summary of how the applicant believes each of those criteria have been satisfied. We did receive the consultant reports or the staff reports from the town. The building inspector didn't have any comments currently. The town engineer simply recommended the neg deck, as has been mentioned earlier. And the fire marshal had one comment regarding fire hydrants relative to aisle width, which is an issue that I imagine we can work through during the site plan review process. We also received comments from Monroe County on the 239 review, and other than consulting with some of the different county departments in the DOT as to their permitting processes, they had no substantive comments on the application. So with that, I'd like to introduce the other members of the project team. We have from Floor & Decor, Julie Starzinski, who's the Director of Construction and Design. Also from Floor & Decor, Alexander Sporer, the Construction Design Project Manager. And finally, from Stonefield Engineering, Matt Cheka. His firm prepared the concept plan, the site plan, which was submitted as part of the application. So I'm going to ask Matt if he could walk you through an overview of the site plan, and then all of us would be happy to take any questions that you might have. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, Howard, and thank you, Mrs. Supervisor and council members for taking the time to speak with us this evening. Do you mind if I share my screen to walk you through the site plan?
Go ahead.
All right, great. So as Howard mentioned, I'll give a brief overview. You know, the site is located, as I'm sure everyone knows, in the Marketplace Mall, just off of Highland Drive to the east and Jefferson Road to the north, West Henrietta Road to the west. So like Howard mentioned as well, the plan is to demolish the former Macy's tenant space and construct a standalone 65,000 square foot Floor & Decor facility. Access to the facility will be off the existing Miracle Mile Loop driveway around the mall, and we plan to keep the existing circulation the same as it is today. In speaking with the landlord of the mall, they suggest a 60-foot wide courtyard space to the west of the facility to be introduced to the mall, which is why we are requesting a standalone structure. This courtyard space will be permitted by the landlord at a later date, not part of this application. We're proposing a loading space to the southern end of the facility. And in communication with the city planner, we plan to screen this loading space as best as possible to add a soft feel to the public eye. To the north of the site, we're proposing a additional parking area, since this was formerly covered by building, and a customer pickup area, which is unique to Floor & Decor. This is where they pick up, where customers can pick up tile, stone, etc., in more of a pickup drop-off setting. New utilities are to be proposed as part of the redevelopment. And we plan to connect our stormwater into the existing infrastructure and ponds adjacent to the proposed structure, all in conformance with the state DEC requirements. And it's also important to note that we're reducing impervious cover as part of this package. So we're adding more green space as part of this redevelopment. So we only need to treat for water quality for the project based on the state recommendations. New utilities will be introduced into the existing infrastructure in the roadways as it does today, specifically sewer to the north, along with water, or along with gas and electrical, and water connection is being fed off of the southern portion of the project. Regarding zoning, like Howard mentioned, we are in the B1 commercial district, and everything is as of right, except the need for a special permit, obviously for the building height, as Howard mentioned earlier. We reviewed the EAF mapper based on the state website, and even though we are, it says that our site is located in a wetland area, but I don't think that's true. I think it's pulling from the ponds, adjacent to the east side of our development. But other than that, there was no negative things to note on the EAF mapper. Therefore, we don't think that this project will be any will affect the site any adverse in negative way. That's essentially all we had. I mean, I'll be more than happy to answer any other questions you have with the project. And just to touch on a little bit of what Howard was talking about before, I know we briefly showed, the building elevations, but, here is the tallest part of the building structure. You can see that to the top of the parapet, we have 36 feet for the proposed structure. And then if I swap to the Kaufman old building elevations, the tallest part of their structure is this elevation view in the top middle portion of the page. And as Howard mentioned, the building height is 48 feet. So we are reducing the building height from the previous Kaufman / a Macy's tenant. I can hop back to the site plan if you have any more questions, and I'll be happy to answer anything else you guys have.
Sure. Couple questions. Are you pursuing any sort of pilot for this project?
In terms of what capacity?
Payment in lieu of taxes. Are you going to Comida? Are you doing anything in that regards?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just curious. It doesn't necessarily affect my decision. I'm just curious why there is the gap from the mall, why you wouldn't want mall traffic to be able to walk into the building.
I don't know, Alexander or Julie, do you want to I think you guys were more involved with that than we were.
This is, hi, good evening. My name is Alexander Spohr. I'm the construction design project manager with Floor & Decor. Thank you, members of the board, for hearing us tonight. The way that our store is set up, we only have one main entrance that all our traffic comes in through. Even there are a condition where we have been connected to a mall before. When those conditions do happen, we do close up that entrance and we'll never have connections to the mall. Our customers are coming in for purchasing tiles for a renovation. So our customers are coming in for usually very specific needs. And when they leave, they're usually leaving with heavy carts. So typical mall traffic of somebody shopping for clothing or walking through bags are not our average customer.
Gotcha.
Sorry, this is Julie Sargenti. Just to add to that, that was also a request from the landlord, which Matt did touch upon at the beginning. It's going to be submitted in a later application. So that's another reason why it was a kind of a compromise between the landlord and Floor & Decor with us tearing down the Macy's.
Gotcha. One of the questions I have has to do with, when do you think the truck deliveries? Do you have a typical schedule? Is it all day long? Is it only at night? I'm just curious when the truck deliveries typically come in.
So our deliveries for our store come at the evening hours. They start after the store closes and will come about every 2 hours. After that, the first truck comes about 7 p.m. and will go through the night. We'll average anywhere from 4 to 8 trucks an evening.
Okay. And the reason I bring that up is just, as you're probably aware, there is the new medical center to the south of this. I just want to make sure that trucks aren't crossing. Again, or I guess a better way to put it, I'd love to see the truck traffic minimized during times when that center is accepting patient traffic. So
It's actually very complementary with the deliveries occurring during the overnight hours, so that those types of conflicts should not be an issue.
oh yeah, that's what it sounds like. That's great.
And just to chime in on that as well, as part of our planning board application, we are submitting a trip generation traffic memo, and didn't share it with you guys to for this application, but it will be submitted as part of the planning board, and that yielded that there are less traffic trips as part of that analysis our traffic team prepared.
As opposed to the previous Macy's use.
Exactly, yeah, it's a smaller building, smaller footprint, and just a different type of use, so it is just less traffic in general.
Right. Other board members with questions? Yeah, again, you know, anytime it's lower impact, it's generally pretty straightforward, but you know, again, with the recent addition of the medical center, I just wanted to make sure that we weren't creating a potential conflict, and it sounds like we're not, so that's
Yeah.
great.
Understood, yes.
Okay, hearing nothing further from the board, do we have any comments on this application from the public? Come on up.
Karen Lankesoffer, 73 Greenmore Way. I'm just wondering where the rubble from the torn down Macy's building will be disposed of.
I can handle that one. Julie Starzinski with the Floor and Decor Director of Construction and Design. We do our best to recycle whatever we can out of the rubble. And then typically there is a certified company that we will have it hauled off to that will either use it for other applications. So concrete typically can be crushed up and used as a base layer in highway pavement, for example. So we try to recycle as much as we can and then dispose of it in the proper manner.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other public? Okay, then hearing none, I'm going to close the special use or the public hearing for special use permit application number 2022-044. And we have two resolutions, one with regards to seeker and one with regards to the special use permit application.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution number 24-320-2022 to issue a negative declaration for Floor and Decor Outlets of America, Inc. special use permit.
Second. So again, you know, less height, less traffic, less impervious surfaces. I agree that I've walked those parking lots. They're not very spongy when it rains, so to call those a wetland would be a little, clearly the mapper's a little off.
Yeah, it happens sometimes.
Probably hasn't been updated since before the mall was built.
Yep.
But to me, this one's pretty straightforward. Any questions, comments?
Just that I think that last part, the special use permit is accidental. I don't think that's included in this particular section.
Say that again.
On the resolution, it says to issue a negative declaration for Floor and Decor Outlets of America, Inc.
Oh.
Special use permit. And I think that special use permit is
Gotcha. Yep. Yeah. So this is just the
just a
correct on,
typographical.
you wrote it. Yeah.
You want me to reread it?
Sure.
Supervisor Schultz, fellow board members, we have resolution number 24-320-2022 to issue a negative declaration for Floor and Decor Outlets of America, Inc.
Second. Okay. Good catch, Millie. Okay, hearing no further comment, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. You're gonna have to give me a second because I had all the other documents open. I gotta open up the resolutions. While it's opening, I will note that I feel a little sad to see Macy's go away, but it's been empty for years and years and years. So to see it actually be used makes me very happy. And the happy of it being reused outweighs the sadness of it going away.
It's clear that malls are not going to look the way that they used to 15 years ago, so.
Okay. Fellow board members, I have resolution 24-321, 2022 to approve special use permit number 2022-044 for Floor and Decor Outlets of America, Inc. to allow a building height of 36 feet.
Seconded.
I will note that there are two conditions, fairly standard. First condition is the applicant agrees to construct the buildings in accordance with the town's draft design guidelines to the maximum extent feasible. And two, that the project shall be constructed consistent with the concept most recently submitted prior to approval, subject to any modifications by the planning board during its site plan review. Okay, any further comments? Anything from the public? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Congratulations. We look forward. Do you know when you're going to get started?
As soon as possible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually, we're looking to start the demolition of the building in the next month to 2 months. And then we will be unfortunately building in the winter, but it hopefully will be open sometime next year, late next year.
If you guys are from further south and not used to, I
We-
do you have
So will my
experience?
car.
I was just gonna suggest, one of the things that you need to do is for if you're gonna be doing concrete when it's colder, get your thermal blankets ahead of time,
Yeah.
because if you wait till the cold gets here, you won't
There's
find
none.
it.
Yeah, no, we have a seasoned contractor that we're looking at using, so I think we're gonna be fine in that department, but thank you for the tip.
You bet. Take care.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next up, we have special use permit.
There's no number.
No, there isn't. Do we have a number for this one? It's not on the agenda.
I apologize. Yes, we do. It is number 45.
Next up, we have special use permit application number 2022-45. Overtime Eats and Drinks LLC, 1460 East Henrietta Road, to operate a restaurant within the existing sports complex, offering sit-down and takeout meal service and to sell alcohol. I see we have a representative. Please introduce yourself and your relationship to the application.
My name's Michael Johnson. I'm the owner of Rochester Sports Garden and Overtime Eats and Drinks. We're proposing in that space before there's a Salvatore's restaurant there. They moved out to a different facility that they built. And we're proposing to open our own restaurant, and we want to serve beer in there. We're not really looking for customers coming from outside as much as servicing the customers that we have.
That makes sense. I don't really have, so is it about the same footprint as it used to be?
We're kind of where they had their dining room, they had a very 3-table dining room. We're going to use that all for the kitchen part.
Gotcha,
And where we used to have a birthday party room, we're going to use that for seating.
gotcha.
We are going to put in an additional entrance. The entrance now will goes through where the restaurant will be,
Mhm.
and that won't always be open when the facility's open. So, and also with the pandemic, we found it really useful to have two exits, actually.
That makes sense. I don't have a whole lot of questions.
Are you aware of the comments that were sent back to your applications
Yes, yeah.
request?
Yep.
No problem with those?
No,
And
No, not
so
at all.
the license from the, for alcohol will be just beer and wine rather than a full bar?
correct.
Okay,
Less headaches.
thank you.
And you're planning on preparing the food on site?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, so my son used to play indoor soccer there. So I'm very familiar with the space. And I know parking was kind of restrictive in the front.
It is.
And the back parking lot was not in great condition. Has that been improved over the years?
Yeah, it's paved and,
Okay,
and
all right.
if it was like way back in 95, it,
Not that long ago, but
yeah,
yeah.
but it's
so,
been
okay.
paved and
Yeah,
we,
I just remember the parking
Yeah.
lot in the back was kind of, just wasn't, well lit and all of those kind of things. So.
yeah, all that's been upgraded. now.
That's all been updated, okay?
Yeah.
Is there anybody from the public who wishes to make comment on this application? Hearing and seeing none. Is there any further comments from the board? Then hearing and seeing none, I am going to close the public hearing for special use permit application number 2022-045 Overtime Eats and Drinks LLC. Is there someone who wishes to make a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion for application of special permit number 45 for Overtime Eats and Drinks LLC, 1460 East Henrietta Road, to operate a restaurant within the existing sports complex, offering sit-down and takeout meal service and to sell beer and wine.
Second.
I'm
Any-
sorry, I couldn't hear who seconded that.
I did.
Millie,
Okay, and is that a motion to approve?
correct.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion to approve? That's what I was just about to ask. Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
All right. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Is this your first time in the restaurant business?
Long ago, we did run the snack bar. There was.
You used to run it? Okay.
Yeah.
Take care. Yep. Next up, we have a public hearing for the proposed establishment of extension number 226 to the Henrietta Sewer District number 1 for Masonic Care Community of located at the corner of Middle Road and Erie Station Road. I guess, Chris, are you going to speak on this, or is the applicant? I don't know that they're here. Oh, he is here. I didn't see you.
Hello and good evening. My name is Ed Martin. I'm a licensed engineer with DDS. I'm here tonight representing the application before you, which has been in the making for several months now. You'll recall that the Masonic Care Community recently received site plan approval for construction of 200 units at the northeast corner of Middle Road and Erie Station Road. As part of that, we're constructing a pump station with a force main leading to a new gravity sanitary sewer main that will discharge to the town system north of us. And as part of that, we're requesting that the sewer district be formed. All the mapping and the petition has been submitted to the town.
Great. I'll note that there was a community meeting with the residents between the Masonic Care Community and Lehigh Station Road, explaining to them about the ability to hook up to this sewer, as well as our project that we're putting in water service to that area, because currently they're all on wells, even though they're in an industrial zone. And then the third thing we told them about was the county's plan to redo the road. They're gonna widen the road and make additional improvements in between Lehigh Station Road and Erie Station Road. So the bridge was reopened, although it was funny, a lot of the residents there actually appreciated the one-lane bridge because it slowed people down coming past their houses. So like I said, Ed was present at that meeting and helped explain to the residents their ability to connect into the sewer. So that's a great community benefit that this will offer for those residents who currently are on septic. Any other questions? I will note that this current district only covers the Masonic Care community. We might have waited till we hear from the other residents as to who's going to participate and all that to draw those boundaries, except that there's a holdup from the county. They won't move forward until they're part of a sewer district. So rather than make this wait until all those questions from the residents are done, we decided we'll do an extension to cover the Masonic Care community itself. And then sometime down the road, once all the residents have had all their questions answered and we've drawn those boundaries, we'll do an additional extension to cover the neighbors that will be able to connect into the sewer. So that's why it's sort of, like I said, even though they will be a part of this system, we're doing it as two separate because for whatever reason, the county health wouldn't move forward with the big part of this project is boring under the throughway. So we need to get all those approvals before the throughway will allow them to do under that. And it's government bureaucracy. We're the ones who had to be part of that application because ultimately this is going to be dedicated to the town. So any other questions? Any questions from the public? And hearing none, I am going to close the public hearing for the proposed establishment of extension number 226 to the Henrietta Sewer District number 1 for Masonic Care Community of Middle Road and Erie Station Road. And we have that resolution later on in the meeting.
Great. Thank you.
Next up, I have the public hearing for a proposed local law to amend the Henrietta zoning code with respect to the effective date of the New York Stretch Energy Code 2020. So basically, when we first passed this law, we were actually talking about having it be effective on January 1st for a couple of reasons. One, that would give developers plenty of time to alter their plans to include the higher energy efficiency windows and to integrate the heat recovery units or energy recovery units. At the time in the summer, however, there was a possibility that the town would have been eligible for a significant grant from NYSERDA if we moved the deadline up to November 1st. So we did that. It turns out that we were not eligible. And so because of some of the challenges from supply chain issues that developers have been having, as well as our own code enforcement officers and building inspectors needing to really dig in and learn the new requirements of the stretch code, especially with regards to some of the portions that offer a lot of different options on how you can solve the issue. We decided to go back to the original January 1st date. The other thing that allows is it becomes really simple. If your building permit has a 2022 on it, it's by the current energy codes. If your building permit has a 2023, it must be built according to the stretch codes. So that's the other advantage of using January 1st. Any questions, comments? Then hearing none, I am going to close the public hearing for the proposed local law to amend the Henrietta zoning code with respect to the effective date of the New York Stretch Energy Code 2020. We're setting a record for public hearings. Next up, I have a public hearing for the proposed local law to amend the Henrietta Town Code to increase the maximum income threshold for New York Real Property Tax Law, Section 467, Senior Citizens Tax Exemption, so as to include a broader range of eligibility for the same. So New York State has had, and I'm going to talk about this one and the next one at the same time, although we will hold a separate public hearing for that one, because real property tax law requires we pass them as two separate laws, even though they're closely related. But basically, they allow for people on limited income, specifically senior citizens, and or persons with disabilities, to receive partial tax exemptions on their properties based off of their limited income. One of the things I've never understood with these laws is when they don't tie them to a specific dollar amount so that they ratchet up by inflation. So they sit for a long time, and then typically what comes along is at some point they jack it up. And so you end up with these huge step increases instead of a nice slope. New York State legislature just did update all of the numbers. The town can either leave them where they're currently at, which was the previous maximum, set them to the new maximums, or anywhere in between. In discussions at a previous workshop meeting and at a previous town board meeting, the town board decided to put the law forward to bring them up to the maximum income levels. And so basically what that means is the way it works is if I'm below a particular number, I can deduct up to 50%. So basically I'm taxed at 50% of my house value. As my income goes up, that percentage goes down. So I believe it goes down 5% each step till I get to the bottom step. Do we have those tables?
Right here.
Jenny? No, I didn't know if she had them to be able to throw them up on the screen.
I have them, but they're from a previous workshop, so give me a minute and I'll dig them up.
Okay, great. And so basically, as you make more income, the amount of deduction goes down till eventually it drops to zero. So like I said, the proposal for both the senior citizens and the persons with disabilities, the proposal is that we're going to raise both of those to the maximum. So those are the tables. On the left-hand side is the current numbers, and on the right-hand side is the new maximums. Again, the percent deduction doesn't change. It's just how much income I can have and to get what my income must be below in order to get that level of deduction. Any questions or comments? First from the board? Any questions or comments from the public? No? Okay.
Are we aware of what has the school district made their decision or anything yet? I heard their discussion during their board meeting, but I didn't hear if they had voted on it or made a decision.
I have not heard of a final decision yet. Doesn't mean that it wasn't made. I just haven't heard of it.
I see.
Introduce
Mike
yourself.
Stafford,
Yep, thank
32
you.
Essex Drive. Was that household income or is that owner income?
Combined.
Household income then?
Yes.
I don't.
Because if,
Do- Gross household income.
Thank
And that comment from the audience was from Assessor Michelle Nicodemus for the record. Any other questions? You coming up?
So I did speak with Andy Whitmore and who's the business official at the Rush Henrietta Central School District, for those who don't know. And he did mention that they were going to take a tiered approach to incrementally increase the levels as opposed to the town's choice to go with what the county had adopted, which was the maximum, which I understand is traditionally what the town of Henrietta has done in the past, is to follow suit with the county as far as adopting any new exemption laws or
Sure.
limits.
I will also note that the impact of that growth on the town taxes is significantly smaller at a tax rate of $1 and change versus the school tax rate, which is 18 and change, if I remember correctly. So,
Yes, good point.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
Oh, Michelle?
Yeah.
I don't know if you stated your name for the record.
Michelle Nicodemus, Town of Henrietta Assessor.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And I'll note that Andy Whitmore is the Assistant Superintendent, I believe, for Finance and Administration for the Rush Henrietta Central School District. Okay. Any other questions, comments for the real property tax law 467 senior citizens tax exemption? Hearing and seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing for the proposed local law to amend Henrietta Town Code to increase maximum income threshold for the New York real property tax law 467 senior citizens tax exemption. Next up, we have a public hearing for the proposed local law to amend the Henrietta Town Code to increase the maximum income threshold for New York real property tax law, section 459C, persons with disability tax exemption, so as to include a broader range of eligibility for the same. So as I mentioned, same table, same numbers under New York State real property tax law. We must vote on these separately. Therefore, since they are two separate local laws, they must be two separate public hearings.
So with regards to this particular one, says for persons with disabilities in accordance with New York real property tax law. Do we know what the definition of individuals with disabilities are in this particular context? Is that individuals that are on a fixed income?
So again, Michelle Nicodemus, Town of Henrietta Assessor. So the individual is required to bring in documentation of a disability in order to prove that that is the case, that they can qualify for the exemption. And that, I believe, is from the ADA, if I'm not mistaken.
So they need to prove, demonstrate that they have a disability or that they are receiving disability income.
Well, their gross income is counted just the same as the seniors.
Okay, so regardless of where the income is coming from. or
Correct,
what the
yeah,
designation is.
yeah,
Okay.
because some disabled folks are able to work
Yes.
somewhat. So it's the entire gross income, but as far as the disability, I apologize. I think I might have misheard what you asked, but as far as the disability goes, they need to provide documentation for that as well.
Okay, thank you. And do we know, would this apply to, I know we have a number of like group homes and things like that are here, and sometimes those are privately held by family members of the individuals. Do we know, like, would that be covered as well?
Since I've been in the assessment field, I have not had an application like that, but I'd be happy to look into that and find out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm just looking to see if I don't see anything specifically with regards to that, other than it just talks about that the use must be for residential only.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Anything from the public? Anything online? Hearing and seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing for the proposed local law to amend the Henrietta Town Code to increase the maximum income threshold for the New York Real Property Tax Law, Section 459C, persons with disabilities tax exemption. Finally, we have a public hearing for the proposed 2023 preliminary budget. I've asked our finance director, Linda Salpini, to present the budget. I will be doing a lot of talking in it because that's what I do.
Share my screen.
Okay.
Yep.
So, this past year, we had some supply chain issues. So some major purchases were delayed. However, on most of those, the funds were encumbered. So even though we didn't make the purchase from a budgetary standpoint, the monies have been spent, or they are encumbered is more accurate, but the real estate market actually remains strong through most of the year. So we've had higher than projected mortgage tax revenues. We really expected more of a slow down, excuse me, when the rates started to increase. There has been some, largely in new house builds, but not as much in current houses, current home transfers. So those have still been going strong. And one of the things too that, so like I said, that's remained strong. We also expected the sales tax revenues to flatten out some because we knew there was going to be a gasoline tax holiday in place for much of the year. That didn't happen. So the economy has been going strong from a retail sales standpoint. And so sales tax revenues are also ahead of projected levels. And then while material and fuel prices have risen, the town personnel has done a very good job keeping costs on budget. So we ended the year, well, we haven't quite gotten to the end of the year, but we've done a good job containing costs for 2022, which affects our fund balances going forward to 2023. So green basically for expenses means we're under, for revenues means we're over. As you can see, we're largely in the green. The library revenues are minimal. So yeah, they're under a little bit. The drainage and sewer,
So we had projected a cost for the drainage and sewer building.
yeah,
And then due to the dramatically increased costs in construction, that was over. So we had to take 172,000 from fund balance out of the drainage, and the sewer had enough under expense to pay their share. So
right.
we're not taking any fund balance from sewer.
And then the revenues down on sewer.
It's down a little for, we guess, sewer revenues for commercial, and some of the
Gotcha.
commercial stuff
That's
still
right.
weren't up and running at full potential. for the
Right.
entire year.
So one of the things to note for for sanitary sewer houses, it's a fixed dollar amount. We basically just take the cost and we divide it amongst the number of units connected to the sewer. For commercial buildings, it's based off of their water usage, with the theory of water that comes in the building goes right back out through the sewer. So that one tends to be more variable. Next. So the preliminary budget, 25,678,380, it's 25 million plus. That's an increase of about 1.1 million from the 2022 amended budget. One of the things that we always found strange, if I transfer funds from the general account to the library account and I show the summation of the three, it actually gets counted in both. So that's, in our opinion, deceptive to the public. So we net that out. So when you see it says net of fund transfers, things like that. So we net that out just to keep it simple. And one of the other ones you'll see in there, the East River Mitigation Project. So in that one, the East River Road is being rebuilt, and rather than use town taxpayer funds to pay the town's portion of that work, what we did is 2019, I believe it was, we created a seeker mitigation fund. And so for any project that is adding traffic to East River Road, they have to pay, I think it's $800 per car that they add during either of the peak morning or peak evening drive times. And that we're collecting that money. And when the construction starts, we'll be using that to pay bills that for the county's work, so that it doesn't come from our taxpayer dollars. It comes from the pockets of the companies who are adding the traffic to the corridor. Because anyone who's driven East River Road corridor knows it's at high capacity, arguably over capacity. So hopefully this will alleviate some of those issues. Next.
Well, and this
Oh, did I
budget
miss something?
also includes a $1.5 million assumed
right.
funding of the town's portion of the new town court. So while the budget went up 1.185 million, 1.5 of that is funding the town court.
Thank you. So this just shows year over year. The most recent is off to the left. And, you know, it's color coded based on the different uses. So for instance, you'll notice the year we built the library, and this coming year where we're going to be building the town court, the capital buildings portions of the budget are larger for those 2 years. And of course, you can see in the COVID year, we dropped expenses dramatically in response to the pandemic. And for that reason, we were not in financial troubles at the end of that year. So next. So one of the things I like to try to explain, because a lot of people don't quite understand the distinction, is the difference between the tax levy and the tax rate. So the tax levy is the sum total of how much we collect in property taxes. The tax rate is then calculated from that tax levy. So basically, I take the tax levy and I divide it by the total assessed value of all taxable properties in town. Okay, and that's generally expressed as an amount per thousand of assessed value. So, you know, this past year, I think it was $1.14 per thousand. That's our tax rate. To give you an example, the number I just used to make the math easy, if I have a $4 million tax levy and I have a $3.2 billion in taxable properties, then the tax rate would be $1.25 per $1,000 of assessed value. Next. So the other thing to understand is the difference between real growth and total growth. So real growth in the town is due to new construction, enlargements, and improvements of existing properties. So it's where, you know, if the real estate market was flat, that property value would still go up because they've made improvements to it. It can also be, it used to be an empty field, now it's a house. Obviously, a house is worth more money than an empty field. Total growth includes both the real growth as well as growth due to increases in market value as reflected by reassessment. So as market values go up and houses become more valuable, they are reassessed, and the total assessed value of the town goes up, you know, even if there wasn't any change. So if the real growth was zero, the total growth would be equal to the change in assessed value. For this year, the real growth is 1.51%, And the,
Pick
to-
one.
sorry, 1.6. It's a little soft focus for me at this distance. And the total growth is 12.55.
Yep.
So basically, the majority, 10.94 of that growth is due to rising real estate prices. One of the things I will note, my house properties were all reassessed. I have my current house. I still own my old house. And I actually own my stepfather's house as well. But our school taxes on all three actually went down. And the reason was that the growth in the town was minus the growth in the school's levy, because the school levy went up by a couple percentage points, was still greater than the growth in the assessed values of those properties. So it went down by like $20. That's it, but it did go down. So it doesn't always mean that it's going up. Unfortunately, one of the things that we have seen in this market is that the lower end houses have gone up by a high percentage. And that is starting to shift the tax burden. I've contacted Albany about it. Other town leaders have contacted Albany about it. Not sure what they're doing about it, other than one of the things that they did do about it, oh, by the way, was to increase the maximum exemptions for seniors and persons with disability. So, it's an unfortunate thing about the way the real property tax law works, and we don't have enough time this evening for me to go into all of my issues that I have with the way we tax properties in New York State, so I won't get started. Next. So when did taxes increase? A lot of politicians like to claim they didn't increase taxes when what they really mean is they didn't increase the tax rate. But again, if my tax rate is flat but there is total growth due to rising assessment, I am raising taxes. I'm collecting more taxes than I used to. If I'm increasing the tax levy only by the amount of real growth or less, then I'm not really raising property taxes. The problem is we'd love to do that, except you can't. And what I mean by that is I can't just say, okay, I'm going to collect the new taxes based off of the real growth. If you raise that, the people who got hit with reassessments also pay a portion of that additional. So that's one of my biggest beefs about the way we tax things. For the fifth straight year, we have the same tax levy, meaning there is no increase in property taxes. So we are collecting the same amount in property taxes as we did the year before and the year before that, and so on. Go ahead. So again, our projected tax levy is $4,333,394 for an increase of $0.00. And again, the department heads within this town are largely responsible for that, for always looking for ways to do things more efficiently. And then the growth, yes, our budget's higher, but basically we've been able to pay for that through the growth in the sales tax and the growth in the mortgage tax, the growth in things like building fees and other stuff like that. So other revenues besides the property tax revenues grow each year. So as long as we can keep our growth in expenses below that other growth, we're able to hold the taxes flat. Next.
What this is telling us is that the town has stayed under the tax cap again. So we submit this to the states, and basically the tax cap increase is permitted to be 2%, but we're under, and we'll get to carry over another $178,000 into next year.
Next. So you'll notice we're right at the top. The only town with a lower tax rate than Henrietta is the town of Riga. The only reason their rate is lower, they have a giant landfill that pays all their property taxes. and we are significantly lower than the next closest town. Next. So based off, and now this is an estimated result until all the numbers are in at the county, we won't know the exact. But based off our calculations, based off of the numbers we are aware of, the tax rate will decrease by approximately, so 10.15. And so that results in an anticipated rate of $1.06 per thousand. Just to be clear, that's below the rate from 2000. So we're really kind of rolling the clock back in terms of property tax rate. So when I mention this at the Supervisors Association meetings, the other town supervisors get mad at me. And I'm okay with that. Next. So then this is the governmental funds. It's based off of the, we have different highways separate from libraries, separate from the general funds. I can't really read that at all, Linda.
So it's basically showing that the 4.3 million, which is our tax levy, is being distributed between the highway and library it has been done every year. The general fund typically lives off of all those other fees that you discuss. And within that, we transferred some money out of general to fund the other two. So all I did is deducted that from expenses and revenues, and there's our $4.3 million.
Thank you. And then basically one of the things we look at is our estimated fund balance. We have a fund balance policy to keep at the end of the year between 19 and 25%. One of the things that we have done since I've been here, Linda and I have always felt that we would rather stay conservative on our income or revenue estimates. Now, we're not like sandbagging them or anything. We're taking our best guess, but we're staying on the conservative side. If I have a window, I'm going to stay at the low end of the window for the simple reason that if there is a downturn, I don't want to be in trouble. What has happened almost every year is that the revenues come in above projected. That gives us a fund balance, which we can then use to apply to the next year's budget to keep the tax levy flat. Now, one of the things I've always talked about, you do not want to use one-time revenues to offset your budget unless it's extreme situations. So like maybe during the COVID year, you wanted to do that so as to avoid a tax increase during the pandemic. I get it. When you do that regularly, you run into problems. So we don't do that, but everyone's like, well, you're constantly applying this budget, this surplus. Well, that's because we have the surplus each year and we apply it forward. You get the exact same result if we estimated higher on our revenues. What this gives us is essentially a one-year cushion. So if we have a bad year, there's a significant downturn in the economy, revenues are way off. We'll make it through the year and we'll be able to then plan for the following year to cut back on expenses until the economy recovers. If we did it the other way, we'd have to do that mid-year, which is a lot tougher because who knows what's already been spent, and now you're potentially cutting back critical things. It's much easier, in my opinion, we're much better off doing it essentially a year out. So that's why we do it that way. It's funny, the comptroller's guidance is a little different. We think this, like I said, we've had great success in this. We got through the pandemic without any financial difficulty, unlike many other towns. Every year we've been able to apply that excess of revenue towards the subsequent year's budget to keep the tax levy flat.
And the other thing, we try to keep the fund balance in the general fund because the general fund can fund other funds, whereas the highway, the library, the sewer, the drainage cannot give any money to other funds. They are solely used for that fund. So you'll notice the highway and library have very small fund balances. That's planned. And the general fund has a higher one. Again, that's as planned.
So what we do is we treat those three as in an aggregate. And that's what we look to be in that 19 to 25% range. As long as the sum of the three are in that range, we're okay because as Ms. Salpini said, if necessary, we can transfer money from the general to the library, but once it's there, it can't come back. Next. So this is looking at the year over year assessed value. So the top bar you're seeing, that's the growth in the value of the town. The middle bar is showing the tax levy. As you can see, it's pretty flat. There are some minor fluctuations as certiorari decisions come on and off, minor changes in pilots, other things like that, but it's essentially flat. And then the next one shows what has happened to our tax rate. So basically, as the assessed values go up, the tax rate goes down. Next. So on the special districts, we don't have as much flexibility as we do the general fund because there are no other revenues. And so for both the drainage and the sewer, as we've seen some of these increases in material costs and in fuel charges, we have had to increase the cost slightly to balance. So it's 50 cents additional per unit. For the average household, you're looking at that's about a $15 per unit charge. In the most households are 2 units. It's if I remember, 2 units for the first half acre and an additional unit. It's something like, I don't remember exactly how the formula works, but and then for the sewer districts, we're basically, I should say, that's the estimated annual fee, not the increase, that $15.18. So like I said, for the average house, it's about $30. For the sewer district, we had to increase about $1.50 per unit. So again, the estimated annual server rent will be, or sewer rent, excuse me, will be $37.42. So if you're on sewer, that's how much it takes to get rid of all of your expletive for a year. Yeah. It cost me, 20 some odd years worth of sewer rent to pump my septic tank, which I have to do every few years. So I would love to be on sewer. Unfortunately, where I live, there is no sewer. And park districts, because that is some of the partially covered under the general fund, basically in the areas where they have additional parks where we have to go out and maintain them in the neighborhoods. It's large, well, Greenbelts is a slightly,
This is green.
this is Greenbelts, okay. Yep. Basically, this is our cost to go mow the Greenbelts. We didn't have to change that rate because again, we were able to pick up the additional fuel surcharges and such through the general fund, but sewer and drainage by law must be taxed separately. Next. Go ahead.
This was just the process that we went through. Back on September 30th, we sat down with the full board and ran them through a draft of the tentative budget line by line. They had made some excellent suggestions. We had implemented them. We then forwarded our tentative budget to the town clerk on October 7th. And then at the October 12th town board meeting, we called for this public hearing on the preliminary budget.
And one of the things we did decide to do this year, because of the high rate in inflation, we did decide to implement a cost of living adjustment for our employees on top of what's called for in the union budget. So We did the cost of living adjustment as a flat rate, not a percent increase. Because that way it benefits the people at the lower salaries greater than the people at the higher end. When you do it by a percent increase, it's the opposite. The people at the higher end get the greater benefit. So again, when you look at where the costs are and the folks be able to afford, we all felt it was the right thing to do. We actually even increased it above what we'd originally budgeted 40 cents. We went up to 50 cents because again, when we ran the budget, we had the money to be able to do so. And we believe it's the right thing to do for our employees. Next. We also included some additional headcount. If you see a half, typically what that means is either we added a part-time or we converted a part-time position to a full-time. This is the case here. Yep. So,
Had a lot of growth in the town, and just to keep up with the annual inspections on fire and everything, we just couldn't do it with the full-time person and the few part-time people we had. So we're projecting to convert a part-time person to a full-time person. So we'll have 2 full-time and then the few part-timers.
one of the things I'll note on a difference between some of the building inspections versus the fire inspections, on a lot of the building inspections, it's tied towards construction. And the rate of construction may grow and change some, but you know, they'll have busier periods and less busy periods. But the difference with fire is not only am I looking at and doing the inspections and work for new construction, but every year I must go back through and re-inspect every single commercial building or industrial building that was built ever, that's still standing. So that's one, as our town grows, the amount of work grows, whereas the building, there is some continuing work in the building, but not nearly as much as with the fire. So that's why you'll see the fire tends to grow as the commercial and industrial buildings grow in the town. And of course, one of the good advantages of having that strong commercial and industrial base in our town is that's part of what keeps our taxes so low, because our property values are so high. Next. From an equipment and capital outlay, so we have standard equipment, scheduled equipment replacements, trucks when they get to be, and or heavy machinery when we get to be a particular age. We, just because they're on the schedule doesn't mean we necessarily do them, but that we'll look at how it's performing. Is it time? But you know, it's fairly standard. One of the heavy equipment pieces that we are going to be replacing is our Vactor. If you don't know the Vactor, it's basically both a giant vacuum that it's like a massive shop vac on wheels. But in addition to being able to vacuum up water and unmentionables, it also has the ability to hydro dig and flush. So it basically it's a combination of that giant shop vac as well as a pressure washer, essentially. So it can flush sewer lines, it can flush drainage. We can use it to hydro dig. So if I've got, you know, a gas line and I don't want to be in there with an excavator, I can use water to essentially dig around the pipe without disturbing it. And then, of course, as was mentioned, we're allocating 1.5 million of from the general fund to the new town court. Next. So this is a breakdown showing where the preliminary budget is going. Color coded by sections. This will all be available online, since I'm probably not the only one who can't see it clearly from their seat. But as you can see, this is another weird government thing. It's not personnel, it's personal services. I don't know why. All I can figure is somebody misspelled it many, many years ago and they didn't want to correct it. I don't know. But that's our largest expense. Next. This is taxing by jurisdiction. The big red, more than 50% of your taxes go to the school.
This is based on your 2022
Right.
tax bills because we don't have the final numbers in for the county. We just got the Henrietta Fire District today. We know what the ambulance is because we calculate that. And the school is there, but this is based on 2022's number.
Right. So right now it's showing 4%. We're probably going to be down at either at 3% or possibly even below that because unfortunately, the fire district their levy is going up significantly. Their expenses didn't go up much. Actually, their expenses went down ever so slightly. But because last year they used one-time expenditures to keep the tax levy down, those expenditures are gone. Or excuse me, those revenues are gone, or fund balances are gone. So now, even though the top number is the same, they couldn't drop the amount that went to the levy. So it's, if I remember correctly, it's like a 16% increase in the tax levy. So even with all the hard work we do to keep our levy flat and to keep our rate down, your town and county tax bill is going to go up because of the increase in the fire district. The county, if they are able to hit the number they've been talking, I've only known what the county executive has put forth. I'm not familiar with since it's gotten to the legislature. But if they're able to keep it at the small percent increase that they were talking, just like with the school bill, you'd be looking at your county portion would actually go down because of the growth in our town. But we don't know that yet. The county essentially is the last one to put up their budget together. Next, or is that the end?
Nope.
No. So again, this is a summary of the changes. Green is good, red is bad, right? So 0, no change. So about a 10.5% decrease in the tax rate. The drainage district, as we mentioned, is going up slightly, as is a sanitary. But again, we're talking small percentage and great fees. The CHS Mobile Health, so the ambulance district, we have a formula that basically keeps it so that it doesn't create a burden to the taxpayers. It has to do with what is the real growth and the true growth, or excuse me, total growth. But basically, one of the things that formula does is it means every year the ambulance tax rate will go down. And in this case, it's going down by about 7% and change. So, even though the levy's going up because of the growth in the town, the tax rate is going down. And then for the other non-town ones, again, the school bill has already come out. They had, a 3% levy increase, but it's a 7% plus rate decrease. So again, if your house was not reassessed, or if your reassessment was less than that 7% increase, you'll actually pay less in school taxes this year than you did the previous year. And then, as I mentioned, for the fire district, so it was 15% and change. So it's going to be a significant, not just a levy increase, it's going to be a rate increase. Even with all the growth in the town, the rate is expected to go up. And as we mentioned, we don't know the county yet. So with what they told me, again, a single-digit levy increase, it should see single-digit rate decrease. So it should be very similar to what you see at the school. That's it. Any questions? Then hearing and seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing for the proposed 2023 preliminary budget. That concludes special use permits and public hearings. Can I get my fourth resolution?
Getting there. Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 24-322, 2022 to authorize bills payable for October 19th, 2022 through today, October 26th, 2022.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, fellow town board members, I have resolution 24-323, 2022. Whereas Peter Burke and his family have donated $500 to the town of Henrietta Recreation Department to be used as financial assistance for English as of speakers of other languages youth to participate in recreation programs at a reduced fee or no charge. And whereas the family is making the donation in memory of Peter's late mother, Kay Burke, who worked with Essel families in Chicago and other places in the United States. And whereas a check in the amount of $500 was received by the recreation director, therefore be it resolved that the Henrietta Town Board acknowledges this donation and thanks the Burke family for their generosity.
Second.
Again, very much appreciative of people who donate to the town to support programs. My thoughts go out to the Burke family, Peter, who lost his mother. But again, thank you for the donation in her memory.
I think it's a real beautiful way to remember his mother, and as someone who also works with Essel's students and New Americans, I know that this is something that's probably much appreciated in many of those families.
Any other comments or? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow town board members, I have resolution number 24-324/2022. Whereas Stanley Capers has worked with Henrietta Youth for over 40 years as both a Rush Henrietta school teacher and a sports and playground director for the town of Henrietta. And whereas Stanley has further shown his dedication to Henrietta Youth by donating a wide variety of new books and toys to the recreation department in order to benefit the UPK and the town of Henrietta preschool programs, therefore be it resolved that the Henrietta Town Board acknowledges this generous donation and thanks Stanley Capers for his generosity.
Seconded.
I'll say that my kids were in the preschool program many, many years ago. Very much enjoyed it. The programs have grown tremendously. I've benefited a lot from their new location at the rec center. Just love to see when people support these programs because they're really good programs that help families in Henrietta.
And I have to say kudos to Mr. Capers. He will always be Mr. Capers to me because he was one of the school teachers that I had years ago. And he is just truly an amazing person. He has supported the community, the town. It's just, I don't know where he gets all his energy from, but he is just truly an amazing person. So thank you very much for everything that you do and for your donations.
Any further comment? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolzner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution number 24-325, 2022. Whereas the town of Henrietta Kenwick Park, located at 165 Kenwick Drive, is adjacent to Westbrook Commons Apartments and Townhomes. And whereas the residents of Westbrook Commons Apartments and Townhomes often visit Kenwick Park to play on the playground. And whereas the management of Westbrook Commons Apartments and Townhomes requested a picnic table and bench for Kenwick Park and proposed that they would split the cost with the town. And whereas the town purchased a new picnic table and bench for Kenwick Park and placed them at Kenwick Park. And whereas a check for $952.34 was received by the Recreation Director. Therefore, be it resolved that the Henrietta Town Board acknowledges this donation and thanks Westbrook Commons Apartments and Townhomes for their donation.
Second. So again, the resolution pretty much stated it all, but appreciative for the Westbrook Commons management team to offer to split the costs, recognizing that their residents get a lot of benefits from this town park. Any further comments? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution 24-326, 2022 to establish extension number 226 for Masonic Care Community, now or formerly located off of Middle Road and Erie Station Road to the Henrietta Sewer District number 1.
Seconded.
So we had a public hearing to discuss this one. Any further comments, questions? And hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 24-327, 2022. To call for a public hearing on a proposed local law to expand the boundaries of the mixed-use redevelopment corridor.
Second.
So the mixed-use redevelopment corridor was put in place from the 2019 update to the comprehensive land use plan. It runs down East Henrietta Road, including south of Calkins. But it's only the properties in the front portion with direct access to East Henrietta Road in that location. As we saw during the pandemic, having the Dome Arena in town is valuable, but it's struggling right now. And so, with these types of assets, just like we worked with we put in mixed use overlay district over the tired retail areas of the mall and Southtown Plaza, so that those developers could go out and do new and creative things to help keep those projects alive. I'm proposing that we expand this redevelopment over the Dome, so that perhaps they could do a larger project to, again, help keep the Dome Arena alive. So we'll be having the public hearing at the next meeting. Any discussion or comment? Obviously, if it's specific to the public hearing, we'll hold it at the hearing. Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, fellow town board members, I have resolution 24-328, 2022. To call for a public hearing on a proposed local law to update Henrietta zoning code with respect to commercial rooftop solar and missing mixed-use overlay district entries. And entities?
Entries was right.
Entries is right, okay.
Second.
So basically, the two things, when you read the 2021 supplement to the 2019 update of the comprehensive land use plan, we talked about permitted use of rooftop solar for both residential and commercial uses. Unfortunately, no one caught it. Only the residential rooftop solar went into our code. And so rooftops for in the commercial zones would have to meet the small or medium requirements, which aren't a whole lot of square footage, because those were intended to be kept smaller because we don't want to steal a bunch of ground space. For rooftop, we're looking at, it can be the size of the roof. So we're adding that. The missing entries, we used to only have 2 sizes of solar arrays. We went to 3 sizes. But in the mixed use overlay districts, there's an use table appendix that lists all of them. We had failed to insert the middle category, actually more accurately, the large end category. And then obviously we're going to then need to insert the commercial rooftop systems as well. So that's what the missing entries are. So again, this public hearing would be at the next meeting on November 16th. I will note that I've put together and attached to the resolution online will be the list of what those changes are going to be. We haven't had time yet with all the other stuff going on to craft a local law around it, but that local law will be ready as of November 4th. So, but again, you can see what the changes will be based off of the attachment to this resolution. Any questions? And hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 24-329/2022 to call for a public hearing regarding the establishment of extension number 13 to the Henrietta Lighting District for the Fairways at Riverton subdivision.
Seconded.
So a lighting district is created when a neighborhood wants to have the street lights in the neighborhood. Essentially, that takes the cost of electricity for those fixtures and spreads it across the properties in the neighborhood. Our general lighting district or general lighting costs cover the street lights that are at intersections on major roads, things like that. But when it comes to a neighborhood, if a neighborhood wants street lights, we create a extension to the lighting district. So again, this public hearing will also be at the next town board meeting. Any questions? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution number 24-330/2022 to accept the dedication of the reconstructed roundabout section of Kenneth Drive.
Second. So as it says, they rebuilt the roundabout. We expected it. It meets the town's requirements for dedication, so we're going to take ownership of the road. Any questions? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution 24-331/2022 to authorize a supervisor to execute an abandonment of easement for 225 Kenneth Drive.
Seconded.
So because of, we've taken that road and it's reworked circle and drainage, we don't need the existing drainage easement that we'd had while that was private property. So we're just going to abandon it. Any questions? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Blanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, fellow town board members, I have resolution 24-332/2022 to declare an item surplus material from the Henrietta Public Library.
Is it me? Second.
Yeah, there's a lot of sirens going on outside. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So I will just make comment because it's a piece of computer. If the IT department could see that, if it could be potentially included in the donation that we did at the last one, rather than just disposing of it, that would be beneficial. I don't know what the condition of the laptop is, so that may not be possible, but if it is possible, I'd rather donate it.
And along with that, I know that our school, the Shore Foundation notified our school that they had some some computers to distribute. So I don't know if they came from Henrietta or not, if they've been processed that quickly. But I thought that was good.
Agreed. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, resolution number 24-333/222 to authorize the supervisor to execute an auction agreement with diggingfordeals.com to sell the surplus items located in the town's former public library.
Second. So originally, we were talking about potentially having a tag sale with the coordination of the decommissioning of the old library, as well as difficulties of doing that ourselves. We decided to go with a firm that does these. They've done some for the city. So the head librarian, Adrian Pedinelli, brought this to us. We think it's a great way to handle it. So they'll basically take images of everything. They put it up on all online. It's a way to get rid of, basically potentially get some revenue from the old desks and study carrels and shelves and things like that that are in the old library. All the proceeds from this would go to support the new library. So whether it's acquisition of additional books or stuff for the children's library, that'll be up to the library to decide, but that's what we're looking to do. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution 24-334, 2022 to adopt the fiscal year 2023 preliminary budget.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor and fellow board members, I have resolution number 24-335, 2022 to hire personnel.
Second.
Any comment? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, fellow town board members, I have resolution 24-336, 2022 to approve local law number 18 of 2022 to revise the effective date of the New York stretch code for the town of Henrietta.
Second.
So again, we had a lot of discussion of this during the public hearing. Any further comments, questions? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye. Fellow board members, I have resolution 24-337, 2022 to approve special use permit application number 2022-013 by Planned Parenthood for a medical facility for New York State Article 28 Diagnostic and Treatment Center and Safety Net Provider pursuant to court order.
Second.
Because this is under court order, we're not going to take any public comments during this part, but during the public comment section at the end, anybody who wishes to speak on this can speak during that time. But in the interest of keeping the meeting going, we're going to continue our business and then you can add anything because no matter how eloquent or passionate you are, we're under court order to approve this, so. Please sit down, please. Sit down. Sit down. Thank you. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
I'm going to vote on this, but I'm going to say, while I don't agree with the decision and feel that it's not an appropriate location, I have total respect for the judicial process, so I will vote aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, I have resolution number 24-338/2022 to approve local law number 19 of 2022 to increase maximum income eligibility for tax exemption for senior citizens.
Aye, or a second, sorry, I'm still on the other one, so
No problem.
sorry. Second,
So again, we had discussion of this during the public hearing. Is there any additional discussion, any additional comments? Then hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz and fellow board members, I have resolution number 24-339/2022 to approve local law number 20 of 2022 to increase maximum income eligibility for tax exemption for persons with disabilities.
Second. Any further discussion or comments regarding this local law? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Safranik,
Aye.
Councilmember Bolsner,
Aye.
Councilmember Page,
Aye.
Councilmember Belanca,
Aye.
Supervisor Schultz.
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, if I may, how will we be advertising with regards to this? Because I know individuals have to come in and apply for this, and there may be a lot of people out there that are unaware that that they are not eligible.
So we are going to, the town assessor and I have already been working on a plan to put that out in the November newsletter, as well as we will be advertising and discussing this. The assessor has also talked about going to the senior center and talking about it there. So we're going to do a bunch of community outreach, again, to get as much of this out there as possible. So
Great. Thank you.
I don't know if any of the news channels will pick this up, but we'll try.
Yeah, I think this is really important information for a lot of individuals that are out there.
Is it possible to do a letter to anybody that's currently getting the exemption so that they, well, that's not going to really cover them because it would be an accelerated.
We won't.
Right.
And we don't really have,
identify.
we don't have access to what people's income is.
We don't. So obviously, anybody who's currently getting it, when they come in, they have
They're gonna
to
still
show,
get it,
they'll
so we're
get the
raising it.
increase. So anybody who's already getting it will be in here. It's the people who are currently off the schedule, old schedule, but fall under the new schedule. That's who we're gonna have to try to get.
I know, and it's hard to know how, I mean, hopefully word of mouth, hopefully the
Right.
newsletter.
Is there a deadline for application?
We had a highlight.
No, I was going to say Henrietta Happenings.
No, we are doing that.
Yep,
That's what I'm
that
saying.
one
It's
too.
gonna be in the November issue.
Can't do better than that.
Right.
Yeah, just try to hit any venue that we
Yeah.
can. Yep.
Michelle, town assessor, Michelle Nicodemus has some additional comment.
Oh,
Michelle?
Hi, Michelle Nicodemus, Town Assessor. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay, so it is part of the real property tax law change with regard to seniors and disabled persons that we do a townwide mailing exactly 30 days prior to when the exemptions applications are due, which is March 1st. So we'll be doing that townwide mailing to all residential properties at the end of January. And that'll be in addition to, as Supervisor Schultz stated, the information that we're going to be putting in the newsletter, hopefully fall and winter if possible. And then some community outreach as well.
Fantastic. Thank you.
So I think the concern I would have with the town-wide mailing the end of January is we have a lot of snowbirds.
That is true.
And
But they must do something with their mail.
I would imagine so, but I mean, how is this going out? Would it be transferable? Would it be something that would move on? You know, like there's certain pieces of mail
Right.
that don't forward.
Yeah, I don't know. One of the things we should maybe put in that letter is if you have a parent,
Or know if somebody.
know
would
if somebody, make sure you let them know.
That's a great idea. Yeah, we do have a particular date set by New York State. For some reason, I'm not sure why, but there's nothing keeping us from sending an additional mailing other than, obviously we're looking at over 12,000 pieces of mail, so there's a certain cost involved. But they do require that we send the mailing exactly 30 days prior to the application due date.
And the newsletter is townwide as well.
The newsletters townwide. One of the things we can take
Yes.
at Michelle, perhaps, is doing a postcard similar to all the garbage you receive. I mean, great campaign ads that you receive this time of year.
Real estate postcards.
Real estate postcards, all that stuff. But the point is, it can we can work on designing that to get the message home on first glance. That'll be the key. Because if they think I would want to wait till after the election is over. So maybe, early December, and we can even say, more details can be found in the town newsletter. That type of thing. So the reason is because you can do those what's called carrier route. So it's a lot less expensive than sending, a mail out first class to everybody. So we'll have
Great.
further discussion on what we can do to get that out. So thanks for bringing that up, Melanie.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments on that? Okay, at this time, if town staff members, other than town clerk who has to be present, town attorney, if you want to go home because we're going to the public discussion, I have no idea how long this portion is going to take. But there's no other business to conduct after this, so. With that said, we will open the public discussion portion. Is there someone who wishes to speak? Come on up. Lois, raise your hand first.
I realize this is a done deal, but I'm going to read the law. Pursuant to I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses on. CPLR 5519, the filing of this notice of appeal by the town automatically stays enforcement of the judge's order. Simply put, the town board members and town could not be held in contempt of court because the order itself is stayed. Filing the notice of appeal alone gives the town the breathing room that it would have needed to make an appropriate assessment as to whether or not appeal would have been appropriate. You had 30 days you could have waited on this order. It did not have to be voted on. You would not have been in contempt. Reasons. There were several very good grounds to challenge the decision, not the least of which is the fact that it starts with a presumption that medical facility is a use permit by special permit, even though that is not a category in the code itself and is not the category that Planned Parenthood used in its application. If this decision is, well, it was allowed. Now, any retail or commercial business or medical building could argue that they are presumptively allowed and the town board authority will be weakened considerably. This care has ramifications beyond this application. You basically have weakened your powers because no matter what you want to put in, there's no need to do this zoning thing over here. Because no matter what you want to put in, any business that's ever been in business in this town is going to have a right to go in and say they belong here. That's the law.
I will note that the board decided unanimously not to appeal the decision. The board did by a 3-2 vote decide to challenge the decision. They lost. They decided not to appeal the judge's decision. And so by not appealing that decision, we do have to abide by the ruling of the judge.
I'd like to add right now also my comments in echoing Councilmember Bolsner. Regardless of my opinion about the judge's ruling, the respect for the rule of law is what's really important here. We're certainly not going to challenge that.
Yep.
Regan Howlett, 15 Sweet Pea Drive. I just wanted to say thank you for not appealing the court's decision. This is going to increase access for so many folks to really important services that Planned Parenthood provides, including pap smears, cancer screening, STI education, so much. And I am so thankful as a nurse, as a person who works with folks greatly impacted by inequity in healthcare. You have done a really good thing for people in this area and people who drive from many miles out of town to come to the place where I work. They will have better access now. So I just want to thank you.
Go ahead.
Mike Stafford, 32 Essex Drive. I know several weeks ago you voted to, and I believe it was an up to amount of $20,000 to fight this. How much was actually spent?
Pretty close to that amount. It was a little bit under.
Okay, so just when I attended those two public hearings, both in May, I think one was in May, one was in June, I believe. Unfortunately, I had other commitments, so I wasn't able to stay for both of them during the full 10 hours. But I do remember that it was mentioned several times, and I believe the supervisor mentioned it, that this was a land use issue. And instead of using it as such or viewing it as such, I heard two of the council members mention religious and moral reasons also. And so because of them trying to pander towards their conservative base, they decided to waste $20,000 of taxpayers' dollars. Thank you.
We have two online.
Dorothy, you're up.
Good evening. Well, first, I take offense at the last speaker saying that, you know, the board members were pandering to a conservative base. There are very good, logical, sound reasons why Planned Parenthood shouldn't have been in there. And I think that they were being foresighted in looking at that. And what I'm also concerned about is that we weren't allowed to talk before we did this vote. Particularly Lois made some really good comments about why this should not have been gone through this way. So I'm upset with the judge's decision because I don't think it was farsighted enough, but I'm more upset with Planned Parenthood, and they're trying to bully themselves into town. You have $1 billion industry, and they are an industry, forcing a small town to court because they got embarrassed, because they were revealed and they got embarrassed. As for the judge, I think it's a travesty. I mean, don't citizens have a voice over what goes into the towns, and aren't our boards elected to have a say as to what businesses should be allowed in? Or does the abortion industry get allowed to masquerade as healthcare, because there is nothing that they provide other than abortion that isn't readily available even within the town border. Planned Parenthood isn't just another medical facility. They're in a category all their own. And no matter how you want to say it, no matter how you want to cover it up, they kill children. And this business is not in harmony with the town, its character, and it's obviously against the will of the people. Over those 10 hours, there were 63 speakers, 55 of them opposed. In the 177 pages of written comments, they were overwhelmingly in opposition. So I'm concerned tonight, I was hoping to say, please stand up to this abortion giant and stand with the will of the people. But I guess that's not how it went. And I think this doesn't bode well for the future to have this industry in Henrietta. Thank you.
Just a couple quick comments. When you have a topic like that where people have, come into the hearing, you get the most passionate. That is not necessarily an accurate reflection of the general populace. One only need look at Kansas, a solidly blue state, when they put the abortion up for statewide referendum. They voted to continue to allow abortion. So,
and there was passion there too. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Let me finish. So like I said, I understand that the majority of the people here were against. However, I will also note that a large percentage of those speakers who were against were also not Henrietta residents. Under public hearing laws, anyone is allowed to speak. You don't have to be a resident, but the idea that the people speaking here, because of the percentage numbers, that somehow demonstrates that that's the represents the feelings of all of Henrietta is just not borne out by the facts. The second thing I will note is that based on you had specifically asked a question, do the residents, do they have the ability to say, we don't want this business in our town? No, they do not. You don't get to say, I don't want company XYZ in my town. You set up zoning laws. If the business is compliant with the zoning law, you must apply the law equally to that business, regardless of whether you like that business or not. That's a land use discussion. It is not I'll call it a popularity contest. That's not how it works. So,
but you put zoning laws in place to protect the community from certain businesses and influences that you don't want within your borders. And you are elected based on what the population feels, how you will stand up for them in those situations. So the board initially voted, I think, in consistent with what the population wanted, and in recognizing that this is not just an ordinary business. So I get, you can't just, everybody can say what business goes in and out, but that's what the zoning laws are for. And that
let's be clear, it's not to protect against a particular business. It is.
I get that.
No, let me finish. It is to select where in town it is appropriate for a particular business to be. You can't zone out and say we can't have any of this unless the law allows that. So for instance, with cannabis dispensaries, the law that enables those to exist gave the abilities for both the retail dispensaries and the consumption sites, gave the ability for a town to opt out of having those in their town border. If that is not an option, New York State does not have a law that allows a town to opt out of abortion clinics. In fact, they have just the opposite. Therefore, we cannot say we don't want Planned Parenthood in our town. that is not legal. What these board members said wasn't that we don't want Planned Parenthood in the town. The 3 board members who voted no felt that that location was not valid.
And rightly so.
The judge basically looked at the finding statement, and the judge ruled that the decision was arbitrary and capricious, and that's a legal term. However, the judge also noted that he felt that the town board members were sincerely acting in what they believed to be the best interest of the town. So they did not find that the town board acted inappropriately, just that the arguments that they made did not hold up under the judge's review. As far as Lois making good points, we had a really strong, this is actually the first such appeal he has ever lost. And to be honest, when he came in, he was a little hesitant to take it. That's not quite true. He said, he made a comment that he was worried because this is probably going to be his first ever loss. It was a very difficult ruling to challenge based off of the facts. The 3 members who voted to deny the special use permit felt strongly that this was not the appropriate location. They put forth arguments as to why. The judge just did not feel that he felt that there were, or excuse me, she felt that there were enough reasons there that weren't appropriate, and basically overturned the decision, remanded it back to the town, and required that we approve it. Could we have appealed it? Yes. It would have been significantly more costly, and it would have been even a slimmer chance to get it overturned on appeal than it was to defend the original decision. So the town board, being responsible for the finances of all taxpayers, as well as respecting the rule of law, made the decision to not appeal this, right? If it had been a higher % chance that we might have won the appeal, who knows? The town board might have decided differently, but again, unanimously, we decided it was not in the best interests of the town to appeal this decision. The other note I will make is that even had this won, had the denial stood, that does not mean that Planned Parenthood isn't in town. If they came into a B2 zone, there would be no public hearing. They would just get to move in. So the idea that zoning somehow keeps out a business like Planned Parenthood is just plain false.
No, and I understand that. And that's where I think the bullying comes in from Planned Parenthood, because they were embarrassed by this loss, and they didn't need, they could go anywhere else in Henrietta. But the fact that they came back here and put you guys through this, put your board members in the position that you had to do, put the siphoning or stealing money from the town, I think is just another example of what this business is and how they disregard individuals in towns, and particularly moms and babies. So I appreciate the time you've taken with me tonight. And I'm disappointed, but this is how Planned Parenthood rolls.
Thank you for your opinion. Do we have the second person online? Are they still have their hand raised?
Taylor, you're up.
Hi there. I'm here tonight representing the young people, and we're also very disappointed with this decision. This is not healthy for young people, for women, or for children. Children die as a result of this, and suicide risks increase by 110% when a young person has an abortion. So unfortunately, we really have made a decision against our young people in making this decision and allowing this, as well as cancer screenings have actually decreased by 30%. The only thing that Planned Parenthood has increased, according to their own records, is abortion.
Thank you for your input. Anybody else wish to speak? Anyone else online?
Mike Stafford, 32 Essex Drive, different topic. Supervisor, you and I have talked several years now about political signs and how a certain party seems to put them anywhere and anywhere they want to, including state property, county property. Now I see them on town property, and wonder when we're going to put some teeth into the law that they no longer can do that.
We are working on updating the sign code. As you know, it's a lengthy process. I've instructed any town personnel, if they see signs on town property, and I myself did it myself, I don't care, red, blue, purple, green, they go away. It is not appropriate to have campaign signs on town property. One of the problems with the current sign code is that the only person we can go after is the property owner. That I have an issue with. We're working, but as you know, the sign code is huge. I've been working on, I'll call it detangling it. But I'll be hopeful that we can do it sometime next spring.
Okay. Just so you know, they're at Hopkins. They decided to put them at Hopkins Park now.
Thank you.
Down in
Appreciate that.
Pinnacle. They have been removed, from my understanding, from the Henrietta Fire District properties.
We had them right out here at
So,
the
yes.
corner on the library property.
So as somebody who's put up thousands of campaign signs over the year,
Right.
I've never put them up where I didn't have permission.
What I find particularly troubling is that the most common, what I've seen, the most frequent violators are the judges. Both, just in terms of size of signs, locations of signs, the illegal little rolling signs,
Yes, and I was gonna mention it. I believe the ones I saw were for the judges. There's nobody running for town office this year.
No, but there are
they're not-
county-
yeah,
there are
there's-
county
they're
positions,
not-
but
they're
like I
not
said-
putting them up legally now.
Yeah.
So, okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Any other comments from the public? And hearing none, we will move to the committee and miscellaneous reports from the board.
Well, since we were talking about political signs, I'll move to the library. Early voting starts October 29th. So,
3 days,
The
3 days hence.
the library is an early voting site.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, I just said that. I mean, I said library, but I didn't tell you why I was saying it that way. I
Yeah, no,
apologize.
that's.
So early voting at the library starting October 29th. And then the only other thing I have is November 5th from 10 to 4 at RIT. There is a Rochester Children's Book Festival, and you can interact with over 50 authors, signatures, buy books, do all that fun stuff. So it's a great thing to take your kids to if they like books.
And I will say the director of that program is a phenomenal woman.
Did your wife?
Yes.
I was listening to you and going.
Tui Sutherland will be there to speak and sign. So if you are from, yes, so that was a huge coup this year. So
Wow, that's amazing. Awesome. That's all I have.
any others?
Just a backwards looking, saying Halloween celebration at Tinker was fantastic. 600 trick or treaters, way more than they expected. People loved the 250 carved pumpkins that were there, and looking forward, holiday lights and magic, coming up on December 10th. And it's rumored that there is a full solar eclipse happening April 8th, 2024. Get your tickets. Because it's gonna go right over the top of Brockport, I think is like the epicenter in Western New York, but
Wow.
we're gonna get,
We'll be in totality, I'm almost certain.
yeah, I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So they're already talking at the Parks and Rec about, do I want to do something?
Yeah, we are working with the planetarium. There's a whole group in Rochester
Planning for this, yeah.
with science, the Science Museum, the planetarium, that in a whole bunch, most of the universities. So there will be events coming up. So keep an eye out for it. It's, it's one of those, I've been in annular eclipses. Having friends who drove out west to be at the last total eclipse, they said it's like nothing they've ever experienced before. It's not just nightfall. It's easy to see why in olden times it was seen as so mystical and magical. I really can't wait because I've never experienced a total eclipse.
I just want to,
Yeah.
I just want to put on the record, as a member of the Russian Henrietta Health and Safety Coalition, we've been meeting for 25 to 30 years. And we're trying to spread the word as much as we can to the community that as legal cannabis and retail sales start to come to fruition, there's been a lot of ability to order gummies and other forms of cannabis, both illegally and through the internet. And one of the biggest increases in health to our children today are young children eating these gummies and other food source cannabis in the emergency rooms. It's really been something very scary. And so I wanted to make sure we put on the record that as Halloween approaches, the parents need to be really, really careful in monitoring what they put and what they get for candy, because they're making them look like candy that they like already, but there's been a lot of sickness. So for all the parents out there doing and trick or treating, make sure that you check everything that comes home for the safety of your
Yeah,
children.
and if it's not industrially wrapped, you should avoid it. That's even before this has started to happen. That's good advice, but it's especially true going forward.
One thing I didn't mention is that seeing Henrietta Through Your Eyes, the photo contest, artwork contest, that ended last week. We had over 30 different things submitted. And one of the conversations that we had about it, and I might be jumping the gun, but I'm going to do it anyways, is that what we would like to try to focus on next year is take pictures, Henrietta Through Your Eyes, but look at even Henrietta events, the 4th of July fireworks, the Pride Week, the flags from the Pride Week, or even the
Memorial Day
ceremony that we
parade.
had. I mean, even something as simple as maybe your kids play baseball and there's a baseball game at night, or look at even different seasons, maybe sledding somewhere, or Christmas trees somewhere, or pumpkins in front of someone's house. We try to pick a monthly one, and so it would be really neat if people would kind of look towards different seasons when they submit their artwork. It would just be really fun to have. We got a couple unique entries, which we were really excited about this year. But think about it next year, because it's going to be a yearly thing and it's just going to continue to progress. And the group that makes the decisions, they're just really excited about it. So I'd like to just put it out there to kind of have people start thinking about it for next year.
It won't disqualify an entry if I use it in town newsletter, will it? I have some great foliage shots that someone captured at Tinker.
That's
for
what I
next
said.
year's.
I've got some great 4th of July shots, but I said I'm on the committee. I guess I shouldn't submit them.
I didn't take these shots, so, but they showed them to me and I'm like, oh, can I get those for the newsletter? I just want to make sure I'm not.
You do have to sign a waiver stating that, we're not going to pay you, or you're not going to expect anything in return.
Oh,
for
that's
it.
not an issue.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure if they're in the newsletter, they're not
They're not.
disqualified for next year.
Right. No, tell them to submit them, please, because
Yep.
it's just fun.
All right. Well, thank you all for attending. With that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Hearing no objections, meeting adjourned. Yeah.